for the time given to me. Now I'll explain number 7 of our material, sociolinguistic and educational. Sociolinguistic looks at how language used in social contexts and social factors influence the way people speak. In sociolinguistic, there is a debate about the occasional impact of vernacular dialect use. Some the difference key language is language diversity. School and classroom are often meeting points for different language varieties such as regional dialect, different in speeches on geographical location, sociolex and registers, variety used on based on social groups, economy, class, formal, informal situation. First language. Second, foreign language. The presence of local or national language by Indonesia as student while they learn English. Code switching and code mix. The phenomenon where students or teachers switch between two or more languages within a single conversation. Relevant. In a language classroom, code switching is often used by teachers as a pedagogical strategy to explain difficult concepts or maintain emotional rapport with students. Language attitude. The feeling brief and judgment individual holds towards a particular language or language barrier. Relevance. Positive attitudes toward English can enhance students' instrumental and integration motivation. Controversially, stigma against certain local dialect can affect students' self-confidence in the classroom. Communication competence. According to Dale Hemnes, this knowledge of when, where, and who used in language in a specific situation much broader concept than grammatical precision. Some question whether children who speak vernacular dialect experience an educational disadvantage or discover linguistic defiance or have language disability. However, some sociolinguists argue that vernacular dialect does some indicate language deficiency, despite claim to be contrary often raised in public debate. In other words, vernacular dialects are simply a form of language variation, not a sign of linguistic. The impact on sociolinguistics on education. First, concept relevance. Sociolinguistics encourage to use the authentic teaching material that reflects student real-world social context, dialect, about local custom using English, rather than exclusively using on native speaker or culture. Multiculturalism. Regarding the issue of local culture, here is Englishes into curriculum. This is especially to students do not feel learning English threaten their existing cultural identity. Now, let's move on to number 8 as for dialect misunderstanding. Dialect difference can indeed create the potential for miscommunication, especially if children who speak vernacular dialect can barely hear standard English. However, the reach in English-speaking communities such as Ann Arbor shows that children who speak vernacular dialect do not seriously difficult understanding the standard English that can heard on television, radio, or from their teachers. In other words, while miscommunication is possible, their ability to understand standard English is not how I saw it fear association. Here's some problems for misinterpretation. Intellect equal errors. Misconception. Many people feel central dialects, especially leisure or lower classes, dialect are as incorrect language or non-standard language, and adequate species. Second is linguistic reality. Sociolinguistics assert that all dialects are linguistically valid. Distinction between standard and non-standard dialect in social and political, not based on linguistic superiority. That standard dialect is simply the one who granted prestige and power by institution, media, or government. Second, access limit intelligence. Miscommunication, a strong instance, is influenced by L1 or regional dialect often mistakenly interpreted as an indicator of lower intelligence or limited language competence. Impact in ELT. Students with strong regional accent in English may feel self-conscious or judged or focus should on intelligibility, clarity, or achieving perfect nativity and franca. The third is dialect impairs communication, miscommunication. They believe that two speakers use different dialect cannot understand each other. Reality. Most dialect within the same language are mutually intelligible. The true barrier or miscommunication and accent. The last is character adjustment and best dialect. Miscommunication. Individuals automatically associate non-linguistic traits such as friendliness, honesty, and sophistication with specific dialect consequences. This can lead to social discrimination, hiring process, which violates the principle dialect language inclusivity fences in Sociolinguistic. I think that's all for me. I'm sorry if something is if my speak was imperfect or there's something wrong with the dialect. So sorry. Now let's continue to the next presenter. Thank you very much.